All right.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm super excited because we have Miss Dust joining us today.
Yeah.
She is the sole proprietor of Pixie Dust and Spirit Alchemy. And if someone wanted to call you something to address you, what would your choice be? I use Miss Dust because it's kind of funny.
Yeah. Pixie Dust. Pixie is usually what I seem to be called. Pix is okay. Not that anyone really calls me that. Miss Dust is okay too. It just makes me feel kind of old and proper. So I kind of giggle anytime somebody calls me that, but giggling's not bad. So anything with the Pixie Dust part. So
nice. Okay.
yeah.
PD.
PD. Yeah, that works too.
Cool. So all right, Pixie. I'll just go with Pixie.
Cool.
Miss Dust was Abby's invention.
Yeah.
So I don't want to steal too much. So I guess I'll start with how we met. I'll start there.
Cool.
I mean I just ran across your YouTube channel, and it was about the occult in the main, but it was remarkable to me. It stuck out super big in that the way you were approaching it seemed really different from everyone else. I was used to, very serious presentations, and people had their altars and backdrops, and especially if they were dealing with what people think of as darker forces, it was all very serious, very heavy, a lot of red, a lot of black. And then here you are, like chilling on the bed, and it just looked to me like it was a very, not average, but by occult video standards, sort of a more normal presentation of just like a regular vlogger who just happened to be talking about the magical cash book. So I was super intrigued. I was like, wow, this is a very kind of sane and centered approach that I'm very much enjoying. So if we want to look back on that period, like where you started, what do you think? How close was I to the actual reality?
Very close, very close. Also, apologies, my window's open, so sorry if you can hear the sirens going right now. Pass. Very close. I mean, when I started making the videos, I really was just working with what I had. I wasn't trying to be like some fancy YouTuber. I was just putting out information and experiences that I had experienced. And at the time, I really just had like my bed to sit on, and I did have a ring light, which I still have, my phone, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just making a video and putting it out there. I don't even think I edited videos back then.
Right.
And it kind of, I was surprised, and still am, I guess, less surprised now, but mostly just grateful at like that I connect with people throughout the people that I have connected to and with and still connect with on this journey, because I didn't really know what was going to happen by putting a video out there. But it was just, I didn't consider myself an occultist. I didn't consider myself a witch even. I didn't consider myself anything other than I read this book. Here's what happened when I worked with it. So.
Right. And that was so cool, because it really was just like watching somebody going, hey, this looks like it would be handy, I'll try it, in this very open way. But it wasn't, I am super spooky lady, and now I shall show you the spooky thing. It was just, hey, this book says if I do this stuff, like, I'll get money. That's cool.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
What an entry into this world, So I'm gonna take it back a little bit. We're gonna take it back.
Okay.
To your Enneagram type, or MBTI, human design, natal chart, space bong, whatever typing you prefer to talk about.
Cool.
So I know you and I had done some work together, and through some doing, we discovered that Enneagram 3 made the most sense for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so my little cute phrase shortcut for that is cash and prizes, or the trophy case. And not for nothing, I have names like that for all the Enneagram types. I myself am the Space Cadet. So
Which number is that?
9.
9. Okay, right.
Yeah, totally Space Cadet. So Enneagram 3, cash and prizes.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your achievements.
Yeah. Well, there's still, I guess, a lot of them, being the achiever that I am, are a work in progress. I guess it is an achievement that my YouTube has grown just a little bit that it has, and it's still growing. I'm really grateful for the subscribers that I've gotten and the people that are interested in that. I have my own piano studio where,
Nice.
so yeah, and so I've established that over the last few years, which I think is, well, I know is also a result of like wealth magic, which we can talk about like later and stuff.
Right.
Um, I really consider myself a writer though, because I am a writer. I just don't quite yet have anything published yet. And so, but I'm always, I have a lot of projects going on all the time. And so most of my free time is dedicated to these projects, whether it's writing my book or working on my YouTube, or I'm learning, becoming fluent in Spanish. So I take
Nice.
Spanish lessons. Yeah. And, I'm a perfectionist too, which is probably like one of the downsides of the Enneagram 3.
Yeah. Yes.
And so I can very easily, a lot of the time, be my own biggest critic, and just think that things aren't good enough. And in the past, that's held me back a lot more than it does now.
Cool.
So, to answer your question, the biggest achievements that are my like goals, my end goals, I guess, are still works in progress.
Okay.
But that's not to celebrate. That's not to not celebrate the smaller ones in the meantime, and to appreciate like the journey there too. Which as an Enneagram 3 is something that I'm having to become more present with and accept. It's not always about, let me not put this cat hairbrush in there. um, it's not always about the end goal, right? It's about enjoying the journey and enjoying the process. And yeah, and that really just makes my mental health a lot better when I can do that too.
No,
So
that's good. Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny thinking about it. That those first videos were kind of Enneagram 3 videos in a way, because it was goal oriented, right? It's like, I'm gonna make some more money and I'm gonna do it with the demon book. Let's do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't really, really when I started posting videos on YouTube is kind of when my whole spiritual journey really gained momentum. And ever since then, it's just been this path that I've been walking and will probably continue to walk like forever. I had gotten into like astrology and certain things, spirit animals and whatnot before then. But then once I opened that door to actually like doing magic, and in that process, especially like with wealth magic and with some of the books, it really helped me to pinpoint exactly what it is that I do want to achieve. And
Right.
so then I was able to focus my energy, am able to focus my energy more on those goals rather than being so scattered and not, either having too much to do going on at once, which I still sometimes struggle with, or just not knowing what direction to go, period. And therefore, probably some like more detrimental patterns come up when that energy is not focused. But
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. It's funny too. As you know, a lot of ceremonial work starts with figuring out what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a number of forms. There's different ways to do all that, but I also find it interesting that the sort of the new thought people, Earl Nightingale or Joseph Murphy or Neville Goddard, same basic idea. Like, you start with, like, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
And people like Earl Nightingale in particular, or, you know, the more secular coaches, they do that too. So the magicians aren't really all that far off from sort of a basic set of rules about just how to have success.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all that weird.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and I don't know what my life would be like if I hadn't have ever started doing magic. It could be a lot different. I feel like it would be. I mean, it would be very different. Yeah, probably. But that's not the path that I decided to go down. So there's not really any way to know. I mean, maybe
Right.
if I hated on it, but it doesn't. But I do feel like the path that I'm on now is aligned for me and with me, and that's a great feeling to have sometimes. When I make a video or do an interview, or even like I'm part of a writers group now, where I live, and that it builds, if that video goes well, or even if it doesn't go well, like I know that this is what I'm supposed to do at this time,
Right.
and that's just a really cool feeling to have, because I did spend a lot of years when I was younger not knowing which direction to go, and just feeling like utterly and completely lost, and going down different paths. When I was younger, I wanted to be the CEO of a record label. And I am absolutely not on track with that anymore.
That's all right.
But that was like when I started college, that was like my goal.
That's kind of rad, actually. You could start your own record label, call it Akashic Records.
Oh my God. I can't take that name from you, but that's a great name. Yeah. Really quick, should I close my windows? The background noise too much, or?
In my headphones, it's barely registering.
Okay.
So it's there, but it's not in any way interfering.
Okay. If at some point it gets too noisy, I'll close it. There's just the people passing by and talking. So
Right.
yeah.
It adds a nice urban ambiance.
Yeah.
It's like we're at a city cafe.
Yeah. There we go.
So
Yeah.
there you go.
Cool.
So in childhood, you were ambitious. You do you feel like you had like a good childhood, kind of an average childhood, and a crummy childhood?
I had a really good childhood. I did. I was very sheltered. I grew up in sort of like a traditional, like, well, more or less traditional. Both my parents are classical musicians.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was immersed in that culture of classical music from the time I was born up until college. And and so that means like my dad is in the Dallas Symphony, and my mom was a concert pianist at one point, but now her main job for the last 30 plus years has been a church organist. And so constant music just in my field, especially growing up. And my grandparents I was very close to, who have now passed on, or since passed on. And I'm 8 years older than my brother, so for the first like 8 years of my life I was an only child, and I got all the attention. um and
Nice.
it was it was supportive, and there was a lot of pressure, I think, definitely a level of pressure that not most people grow up with, because of my parents' careers, and because I played piano. A lot of people would be like, oh, hey, well, you gonna okay. So both my parents went to Juilliard,
Oh,
which is a music conservatory in New York, which is one of the top in the world. And I don't say that to be like, my parents went to Juilliard, I'm so cool, no, like that's not my story. I didn't go to Juilliard.
right.
But growing up, there was that pressure of, well, you're going to go to Juilliard too, or what big things are you going to accomplish? And I felt that very much as a kid, without really having words for it, and I knew that ironically, I knew that I didn't want to be the one on stage performing like a soloist. It's much easier to be behind a camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, other than like the sheltering, I went to a Christian school, up from pre-K to high school. And
Pre-K to high school. That is a number of years, madam.
yes, yeah. So a lot of sheltering. It got a little bit less sheltered when I got into high school, and it was a very, very small school. So I actually still have a few good friends from that because, we grew up, we kind of went through the trenches together, going through this Christian school and just being like 12 of us in our grade. And so I value those friendships a lot, and I'm grateful that they've stuck. And my parents, I think, especially my mom, was very intentional in sheltering me and making me, just creating this world for me where nothing bad exists. Like I was in first grade when 9/11 happened. I didn't know anything about it. Some of my other friends, like when they were in first grade, their parents told them they knew, they have a memory of like what happened that day. I have no memory, of that. My mom really tried to block anything that was bad, anything that was like gay, anything that was not Christian. And there was some toxicity in that too, not to say anything negative like about my parents, but they just have their own programming
Right.
that's so outdated, that, can be difficult now. But it was, for those first 8 years before my brother was born, I was spoiled rotten being by my grandparents and my parents, and I did have a good childhood. So to answer,
Okay.
yeah,
That's a good answer. So you were spoiled like Bella.
I was spoiled. Yeah, very much like Bella. She is so spoiled. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
So now you say Christians,
Mhm.
that's actually, that's a broad brush. Like that runs the gamut from Catholics to burn in hell fundamentalists to nicey nice Ned Flanders, hi diddly ho Nebranio.
Right.
So I get the impression that they were more of the nicey nice Ned Flanders Christians.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was Episcopalian. So
Okay.
Anglican. I did go to a Catholic high school though, even though we weren't Catholic. But I didn't go to like confession or anything. And so, yeah, there was no, I mean, I did have a fear of like burning in hell, but honestly, that was more so implanted from my parents than like the church directly. But, yeah, but I had the whole church experience. My mom was like the church organist and choir director. So we were very involved in that. We were always like friends with the priests and stuff, but it wasn't, when I was a kid, it wasn't very traumatizing. It wasn't until I got older that the trauma began.
Okay.
Yeah. But it wasn't anything culty. It wasn't anything super fundamentalist. I guess it was more the Ned Flanders, nicey nice
Right.
type. Yeah.
We just want to be nice people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to Episcopal school for a year, so I'm hip to what that is sort of all about. It's like Protestant Catholics in a way.
Yes. I will say though, there was a split, which I'm still not super clear on, within the Anglican Church or Episcopalian Church. One branch wanted to be more traditional and the other was more progressive.
Right.
And so I didn't grow up in the schools or churches that had women priests, or pastors or whatever. They were still on the more conservative side where, women shouldn't be priests. They're not fit to serve and stuff. And so there were just more traditional rules in that sense.
Right.
For all the drama with like the splitting of the church and stuff like later on. But just to kind of clarify on that a little bit more.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Remind me, by the way, never to play guitar for you.
Okay. So I would love to hear you play guitar. So
I will never meet Juilliard standards in several lifetimes, but
that's okay. It's honestly, I have not met Juilliard standards either in this lifetime. So I'm sure you could get there. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice.
That's right.
So
or take a cab.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's really all it is practice,
Yeah. I think that there's a lot said about, special talent, like, oh, you're born with the special thing. And I'm thinking, well, maybe, but everyone I know that was born with a special thing that did well also worked their ass off.
Yes. Yeah. There's that saying, what is it? Talent or hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So
Ah,
yeah. And that it's very true, like talent only gets you so far. So if you don't practice it or don't train it, then the talent lessens, the degree of the
right.
talent. Yeah.
Or another thing I heard was the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yeah, that's true too. I don't know. There's a fine where mine went with that, where my mind went with that just now is like the harder I work, the more stressed out I get sometimes.
Well, that is definitely a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure anxiety has been a constant companion if you grew up in a household that had to endure like high pressure situations like Juilliard.
Yes. Yeah. Very much so. I am very familiar with anxiety
Yeah.
of varying degrees. So yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun. It's mostly at bay now,
Yeah.
People, when I tell them I have anxiety, they're like, what? That you don't seem like an anxious person. I'm like, you don't get it. Like, I'm good at maintaining a calm exterior, but on the inside I'm a mess. So
Gotcha.
yeah. But I mean, and I do a lot of practices and mindfulness work now to like not do that. Plus I don't live at home, so there's not that same pressure box just ready to explode. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I understand. My first diagnosis was generalized anxiety disorder. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm familiar with that lifelong friend.
Yeah.
Uh, other than musicianship and the occult, what are there some other things that you'd like people to know about you that sort of dimensionalizes your life, like important pieces?
Yeah. Well, as I said kind of before, I'm a writer as well.
Right.
So I'm working currently on a spiritual fiction fantasy type book, and I have the first draft done. It's 400 pages, and so I'm rewriting it now currently. It's been this whole process so far has been started 6 years ago. So, and I'm closer to being done, but I'm not close to being done and having it published. But it consumes a lot of my time, and where that sounds that's maybe the wrong way to phrase it. I put a lot of my time into it because it's something
Yeah.
that I'm passionate about and something that I will be accomplishing, in time. And in the meantime, I write poetry, I journal a lot all the time. And it kind of is something that I came back to when I was a kid. I wrote a lot of books too. I would just like get pieces of paper and I would draw and like kind of almost make like kids books. Or write little stories or make little cards or for people's birthdays. Like I was a storyteller, and I had a dream when I was a kid of being a writer, and that dream got squashed because writers don't make money. And it wasn't until I got into magic, and one of my magicy friends who re-inspired me to work on a book if I wanted to, and I because I'd had this idea kind of just churning in my mind for a while and hadn't put any effort into making it happen. And so now, like, yes, I don't have anything. I do actually. Okay, I have like one erotica book published, but I'm not gonna say what it's called or my name on it or anything.
Okay, sure.
Like, it's like I just put it out there just to do something. It's made a little money. It's fine. It's on
Oh,
Amazon.
cool.
Yeah, it's not under Pixie Dust, so if you look under that, it's not gonna.
All right.
But um,
So
yeah,
the book is titled "Taken by the T-Rex" by Bella. Just so
yeah.
everybody knows. So go look for that book. There it is.
Yeah, if anyone's really curious, like email me, and if I feel like it, I'll tell you the name of it. I mean, it's not poorly written. It's just it's smut. So uh, a lot of it. And
Groovy.
it's not typically what I write. Like that's not the book I'm working on now. That was just I don't know, just a point in time that I wanted to.
Sure.
But yeah, but the writing really takes up it's a lot of who I am too, and and I feel it's something that I have to practice. You know, I do have kind of a knack for writing, but also I didn't go to school for writing, you know, so there's a lot of just like little details and things. But, you know, and a lot of writers say the best way to be a good writer is to read a lot. And I do read a lot. So,
Yeah.
um, so that's something else, another facet, I would say.
Yeah, and your habit of reading is super handy if you're going to be getting into the ceremonial magic world as you have, because man, oh man, is there reading to be done.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And like every corner of my room or every wall in my room, there are books. Like I
Yeah,
don't right now, but behind me there's books, above me there's books, over there behind and over there, like, and downstairs there's books. I kind of have to limit my book buying now just because I run out of space, but
I get it.
yeah.
I get it. I went to an Indian festival and I was just there to well, to enjoy myself, but I thought, you know, I'm just gonna buy some like little Krishna doll or idol or something, and that's it. It's gonna be fine.
Mm.
I left with that. I bought a nice Krishna and 45 books.
45 books in one haul. That's a lot of books.
It was a 50-pound box.
I bet.
So
Yeah.
and
Well,
and having told myself the day before, you know what? I'm good on books.
mhm.
I'm really good. And then the next day, so I think I may have a problem.
Have you read the books though?
No, they're sitting over with the other unread books, right?
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah,
okay. You're just adding that to the library
to the
collection.
library, yes. Someone mentioned to me that I might actually have an information addiction, and I
Mm.
thought, you know what? That you're probably right as hell. I think
Yeah,
that's probably true.
that could be true. Really quick, I am gonna close my window because it's the noise out is kind of
Okay.
distracting the conversation.
Okay.
So 1 second, let me just sorry if the light blinds you. I'm gonna get up really quick.
No worries. Pipe down.
Okay, yeah. They're not usually. I mean, it is Saturday, so I guess you know.
Gotcha.
But yeah, sorry about that.
I know that you're doing reading series on your channel now.
Mhm.
So that's a handy 2-for-1, right? Because you get to do some of your reading, but you also get to make videos. So that's pretty smart.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, as the channel grows, you know, I'm trying to make content, or I am making content like for members, but also like for the public as well, and also just to promote my reading skills and abilities. And I don't consider myself the best tarot reader in the world, but you know, I have a good intuition, and it's good practice for me as well to do these regular readings. And you know, I do mostly get positive feedback on it, and people find some like resonance with the messages. So yeah, it is kind of like a 2-in-1 as far as
Yeah,
videos.
it's a great choice.
Yeah.
So successes and setbacks on your occult path. Can you
Mm,
think of like maybe one or two like really highlights and maybe one or two not so highlights?
sure. Well, really, like the highlights lately have been doing these interviews that I've been doing. You know, it really I think kicked off with being on Abby's channel, Sumerian Astrology, back last year in November, and you were
Right.
there.
I was. It was my idea.
Yeah, I know. And so thank you for that because that was like wonderful to connect with her. And then following that, actually, I guess the first religion to occult video series I did with a friend before Abby's video, but there was now sort of this momentum with like connecting with people on the internet and doing, you know, collaborating on videos, and that feels very much aligned and feels and it's just exciting for me to do. It brings me a lot of joy, and I really just it makes me happy to hear people's stories and sort of express and share and storytell in that way.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely been a highlight. And let's see, another highlight, I guess. Hmm. As far as the YouTube or just in general?
I'd say in general regarding the broad spiritual path that you've been walking for a little while now.
Okay. I guess another highlight would be moving states. So I moved from Texas to the Northeast a couple years ago, and I do really believe that that was a product of wealth magic. You know, not the only one, but there's certain energies in different parts of the world. And if you're into astrocartography at all, not to make this an astrology talk or anything,
It's fine.
but there, you know, there's almost, they're not the ley lines, but there's astrological lines, you know, that we have based on our natal chart and the world and stuff. And I am, to make it kind of, to summarize kind of, I live very close to my Venus IC line or MC line, which is supportive of the energy of artistic pursuits and self-expression and stuff like that. And so really just kind of beginning this new path in a new place where I didn't really know anyone has been a huge learning lesson and a huge stepping point. But also I feel, you know, it hasn't even been 2 years since I've been here, but I feel more resonance with my path now than I did when I was in Texas. You know, in Texas, towards the last few years, it felt like it was like blossoming a little bit. Like there was like an idea and a direction to go in, and it didn't involve staying in Texas. And when the time came for the move to happen, the universe really, there it's just synchronicity after synchronicity, and the universe really aligned in such a way that it wasn't a huge effort on my part to make it happen. You know, it was just time. And so there was a lot of just support financially and energetically, and like doors closing in Texas, you know, over things or friendships that maybe I was like, I'm going to miss this, or I would stay for this. And then all of a sudden something happens that it's like, well, okay, not going to stay, don't need to stay for this anymore.
Right.
And so that, you know, I think, and also I'm really a nature lover. I try to spend as much time as I can in nature, which is like a good amount. I wish it was more. We're trying to be intentional with doing it more. But the nature here is something that I find very inspiring and something that keeps me very grounded. And in Texas, like it's just, you kind of have to go far to find somewhere pretty.
Yeah. I lived in Austin for like 15 years. I get it.
Right. Yeah. And Austin has better naturey places than Dallas does.
Right.
I just was never like, and it's not conducive to creativity, I found, at least not for me.
Yeah. Dallas is a money place.
Yes. Yeah. Which, you know, yeah, it wasn't enough for me to like save for the money. Like when you grow up there, it's different. But yeah, so I think that was a huge highlight. And I do kind of owe a lot of that success, or a lot of just that happening, to the magic that I've done. You know, it was a manifestation taking place. Like 5 years ago, I wanted to be where I am now. And not to say that this is like the end all be all, that this is perfect. You know, there's still like, it's that achiever in me. Like there's still more to go and more to grow. But I see how much I've come already, and that's a cool thing to look back in hindsight and reflect on.
Nice.
Yeah, and then as far as setbacks, the one coming to mind too has to really do with the occult, actually.
Okay.
You know, I feel like in the beginning of one's spiritual magical journey, there's, and somebody mentioned this in one of the religion to occult interviews I do. I think she called it a veil of innocence or something, or like a protection of innocence, where when you get started on the occult path, it's almost like you're like kept in a bubble, because from spirit guides or angels or whatever, just an energetic force that ultimately is protecting you from any energies that are working against you, or anyone doing hexes or curses on you and stuff. And, and for a long time, like getting into magic, I didn't experience anything negative. Like I
Right.
was just doing my thing and it didn't even occur to me that something could happen to me bad and that could like mess with my energy, and then it wasn't until maybe 5 years down the line of getting into magic. 2022 was just a fucked up year, I'll say that.
Okay.
For a lot, like spiritually for me. And I was really exposed to sort of the dark sides of spiritual awakenings, um and people that don't have your best interests in mind, that are also powerful magicians.
It happens.
It does happen. And, you know, from that experience, though, it really did level me up, because I got to a point where I was crashing and burning and just didn't feel like myself, and could feel without having without exactly knowing what was going on. I could feel that something was messing with my energy. And maybe part of it was like actions that I was taking, but there were also like, it was spiritual warfare going on for a time. And I got involved with some African traditions with, and not to say anything bad about the Yoruba religion or like
Sure.
or anything, there's good and bad sides to everything. But I got involved. I It's a long story about kind of how I got involved and interested in that in the first place, but I did. And I feel like it was meant to happen, because without that experience, I wouldn't have sort of leveled up my own magicianship,
Right.
and on what to do in order to protect myself. But, and also learn spiritual hygiene, which is something that is really important if you
Yeah.
are dabbling in any sort of esoteric or magical or occult art forms or crafts, because it is all energy. And when we don't protect our own energy, especially when we have like a platform where we talk about this stuff, obviously like Pixie Dust is an alias, like it's not my birth.
Sure.
But like, if somebody really wanted to find out who I am, there's technology, they can figure it out and go from there, or they don't even need my name if they want to like do something. They just need to know what I look like or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I have experienced some of that along the way. And it was rough to go through for like a while. It did set me back, like financially, spiritually, physically. It was draining. But growing from that was truly transformative. um and there will be more tests, I'm sure, along the way, but I know the importance of spiritual hygiene now, and I'm really like vigilant at making sure mine is clean.
Nice.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
would say that back so far.
Okay. Yeah. Challenges do cause us to do the work to level up. So
Hmm.
it comes out good in the end.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think that neophytes, people who are new, they do have a kind of protection, right? They do have some training wheels. They got some things looking out for them. And I say this a lot, and people don't get it until they get it. The veils are a mercy.
The veils are mercy.
The veils are a mercy.
Are a mercy. Yeah.
Because when they go, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, I see now. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot that can be seen.
Yeah.
And sometimes a lot at once can be seen. I did Kundalini yoga for a short period also in 2022. And I've told this story here and there on my channel, and I won't dive into it, but ultimately that experience I don't even know how to say, like, pierced the veil so forcefully
Yeah.
that I was just on the other side, living on the other side for a few months, to the point where I didn't know how to be a human. Like, I was in the others. I was so just wrapped up in my spirituality, and and I was really close to my teacher at the time, and she was also an Akashic Records reader, and I at the time was beginning to do medium readings. And so anytime we got together, that's all we were doing. We're like medium readings and Akashic Records readings. And at this time too, at one point I had COVID, and I had COVID for like 3 weeks for some reason. Even though I wasn't really sick, I was asymptomatic, but I kept testing negative or positive. And so I was just at home doing Kundalini yoga every day and doing magic and not really leaving my house. And that was really what sort of just punctured through the veil.
Mhm.
Things started to come in too that I don't know. I wasn't like really sure at the time what was going on, and that was probably just the most like lack of control I've had in spirituality and magic ever in my journey so far. And again, you learn from it, you get through it, you grow, and all the things, but you really do have to be careful,
Yeah.
and what you're letting in to your energy and into the veil, and also what you're trying to connect with on the other side, you know.
Right. So quick answer. If someone came to you like in a rush and they're like, I've got 2 seconds. Should I do Kundalini or not? What would you tell them?
If they have a good teacher, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I will say it was also so spiritually transformative for me. I feel like just the few months that I did it elevated my spirituality tenfold. But and not just not no like bad feelings about my teacher, but she was still training, and I feel like we both got connected to some very dark energies. And there was good and bad. There was good and bad to it, is kind of where I'll leave it. Um,
Okay.
and the good was just as powerful as the bad. Um, it's a great practice for anxiety, for anxious people. Like, I didn't have anxiety when I was doing Kundalini yoga.
All
Um,
right.
and I have not gone back to it since then. Um, you know, I yeah, I just think you need to be really careful and really make sure that your teacher has done all the learning and deprogramming and is solid in their own energy too, if they're guiding you in such a powerful practice.
All right.
Yeah.
So here's sort of pertinent to that.
Mhm.
If what if you had to make it kind of simple, this is not on the menu. This is a pop quiz.
Okay.
Um, how would you define good and evil?
Good is love. Um, heart-centered actions, love and service, to others, getting outside of yourself, and helping others, and that's something that I remind myself too, some sort of mantra or prayer that I try to say daily is like, God, put me to use, like put me to work, like let me do where I let me show up, where I will be of most service to people.
Okay.
And also, like the golden rule and stuff, like treat others how you want to be treated, just being kind as well. I mean, that's all kind of wrapped up in love. And then evil, mm, anything that seeks to harm or destroy or diminish another's essence,
Okay.
or I think, anything that and that can get, yeah, I mean, it can be complicated. Like, I'm not talking about like if somebody does you wrong and then you do some attack magic to get them back or something. No,
Right.
just wake up and you're like, how can I hurt everyone I encountered? Then
Yeah.
that's cool.
there,
So,
there are folks who aren't too terribly far from that position,
that's true.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is because to an outsider, right? Let's say just an outsider doing a drive-by on your YouTube channel, and they're like, okay, this chick works with demons. She calls herself a witch. She's celebrating all these people who left Christianity. Surely she's evil, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think it's an opportunity to say that's not how you gauge evil.
Right. That's a conditioned version
Yeah,
of conditioned definition.
yeah, and terribly bound by perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
So
Yeah. And I mean, if you had shown me my YouTube channel when I was 11 or 12, I would have thought the same thing. I would have thought that I was evil and so good, because that's just the programming I had at the time and what I was taught to believe.
that would
Um,
make a great time travel short story.
that would. That actually, yeah, that really would.
You
Really
know,
keep that in mind. Yeah.
let me show you this stuff. Oh my God, this lady's so evil. It's you in the future.
Yeah. Right.
Ah.
Yeah. And like my intention with all of that, I like how you said celebrating people that left Christianity. And it's really any religion, like, and it just happens to be that most of the people I've interviewed were Christian, which is fine. That's cool. I'm hoping
Yeah,
it's to connect with like people that grew up Jewish or Muslim, or something else, but like if you actually take the time to listen to the stories and and dive a little bit deeper into what it's truly about, like it's a spiritual journey, right? It's not like you're just denouncing and throwing your middle finger up to Christianity or to whatever religion you grew up in, but it's seeing truth in things. It's maintaining that curiosity. It's maintaining that desire to seek and know more and connect with more, because I grew up Christian, obviously, and I never felt God in the ways that I wanted to feel God in church.
okay, that's an important point.
Hmm.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. And some people do. And if they do, then that's great. That works for them, but there are other people, a lot of whom you can find in the interviews that I've done, and other people out there too that haven't been interviewed, because there's only been 10 that's interviewed so far,
Right.
that can relate to the same thing, where it's like they know God exists, maybe, but they don't feel it. They're not jiving. They're not finding him in this church upbringing or this religious upbringing. And if they're true seekers, end up finding God, and I say God, it could be universe, source, higher power, whatever you want to call it. My God today is not the same God that I grew up with. But they find that connection in another way. And that's where
Yeah.
the spiritual fulfillment and nourishment from, that religion is supposed to provide for everyone. But
Yeah. I think Dion Fortune called Protestantism a car with no engine.
okay, I have not heard that. Why?
Be-
That's an interesting, yeah. So,
because because it just doesn't have the, like, it looks like it's going to get you somewhere, but it can't.
mm-hmm. That's true. I mean, yeah, and I'm sure there are a lot of people, like I know priests from my childhood that we were close to that truly do believe, and like they are good
Sure.
people, and all the things. That's where they find their fulfillment. Just didn't work for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to be clear, you can indeed find fulfillment and all the things you're looking for in Protestantism. It is possible.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's less likely and it becomes increasingly less likely over time. That's what I would say about that.
Yeah.
So tell me about this, and I think everyone who goes down the occult path has this moment. Tell me about the moment when you were scared as hell to get started on this and you did it anyway. Because we all have that moment.
When I was scared as hell. I guess it took me a little while to get there. I didn't really have fear in the beginning because I was life was just at such a low point that I was like, if it gets any worse, like, I just don't think it can, let it come.
Right.
The life already sucks right now.
Yeah, I'll just make an orange checkbook and it'll be great. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So it took me a long time. And plus I also I'm grateful to have had like a friend, Arjuna, actually,
Yes.
who was very influential in me even starting my YouTube and also just getting me into magic because I saw him doing the same, making his videos back then. And I was like, what is this about? But knowing and trusting that person that I knew in real life, like before YouTube and stuff, like really gave some credibility to it and kind of helped me to just quickly overcome those fears. And also my first ritual evocation of a demon was with a group
Okay.
of magicians that I was connected to in a Facebook group that were all doing wealth magic, and we all like met up and went to New Orleans together years ago, and we decided to evoke a demon together. And I hadn't evoked a demon yet, and I was like, cool, like if they're doing it, I'll do it too. I'm not so
Let's do it. Let's do
yeah.
it.
So I kind of had like the help of friends really to get me kind of past those points that might be causes of fear for a lot of people. I think my biggest fear was when I was being hexed by these people in the Ifa traditions
Okay.
and realizing how deep of a grasp they already had on me before I even knew it and before I had taken any action to stop it. And so this was all in 2022. I did Kundalini yoga for like the first 3 months, pretty much daily. And then after, the teacher and I had a falling out, and then I just completely shut that door, because for my own sanity, pretty much. And then one thing led to another where I was connected to the Yoruba religion.
Okay.
And at this time of doing Kundalini yoga, I'll try to sort of like give enough information just so people understand like the gravity of this. Like, something attached itself to me spiritually. And I was also kind of working one on one with this other magician who I won't name. But he was doing this work of connecting with his holy guardian angel. He wasn't using the GOM book, the Gallery Magic book, or anything. He was doing his own personal work. And
Yeah, that's
so
thelemic as a term anyway.
yes, yeah. And so I was also thinking that at this time that I was connecting with my holy guardian angel. And what got me to, okay, so let me just put it in perspective. Like when I was doing Kundalini yoga, I had this Kundalini rising experience, and essentially it was just like, that energy just shot up from out of my spine, and my head and pineal gland cracked open.
Okay.
And did not close for a long time. And I didn't know how to put up barriers to kind of shut that off. I also, thanks to Kundalini yoga, had the realization that I should begin practicing mediumship. And so I was, but I didn't know how to turn it off.
Okay.
And so it was like 24/7 connection with the other side and hearing voices, having entities in my space to the point where my cat Bella would hide under the bed because she didn't want anything to do with what was going on with whatever I was doing. And this entity that I thought was my holy guardian angel, which I believe it was, if it was any connection to that, it was definitely like the shadow version of the
Okay.
whole. I asked its name out loud just one day, and I
Good
heard
idea, actually.
what?
Good idea, actually. People
Yeah,
don't do that.
thanks. Yeah. Um, and I heard, like, actually verbally heard this male's voice say Ash, just like whisper it. And in my mind's eye, I saw ASE. And in the Yoruba religion, Ase or Ashe, I think it's Ase, is like Amen, basically, is their term of Amen. But I didn't know that at the time. So I looked up what Ace was. I said Ace. And that's how I got into the Yoruba stuff.
Ah,
And so as I got kind of just deeper into all of that, I ended up connecting to these Babalawes in Nigeria who
wow.
were going to, do ritual work for me and all this stuff. And I was even paying them a little bit of money to do some ritual. I don't even like to find out my Orisha, my crown Orisha, which is like sort of their pantheon of African gods that they,
Right.
and and I was wanted to find which one sat at the crown of my head, and basically that I have this connection with. And so I kind of built this connection, and I don't know, there was like some dark magic going on. One day I woke up and they were sending me videos of like a dog they were going to sacrifice on my behalf, and I was like,
Yo,
please, for the love of God, don't do that. I don't want any animals involved in this, any sacrifices involved in this.
I get that. Trust me.
Yeah, okay. And it wasn't until like, I know this is a long-winded answer to your question,
No, it's
but
great. This is super awesome. Good stuff.
cool. Cool, thank you. Yeah. But it wasn't really until I was kind of just like at my wit's end. Like I had no energy. It almost just felt like my mind was like a just this constant rat race of thoughts. And I was drained. I was working nights at the time, and I would sleep all day, and then still go to work and just be so god awfully tired. And finally, thankfully, I have some like really good magician friends that I trust, that have helped me along this path. And I asked a couple of them like what was going on, and they told me that there were basically hexes and curses and it's magical attacks being placed on me, and told me what to do in order to stop it. I had also received these bracelets from the same Nigerian Babalawe that were hex. I had to cut those up and bury them and do like cleansings and rituals. I don't know if they had sent some entities. I was also living in this haunted house at the time, which wasn't
Whoa.
cool. Yeah, like it was a cool thing because I was basically living there free of rent. But my friend had prefaced saying, look, my aunt and grandma died in this house, and I think their spirits are in here. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So there was just so much going on at the time. And this was all in 2022, pretty much. And
You know,
so
by the way, I've paid for places that were haunted. So for me, that would have been like a cool deal. Like, oh,
yeah,
great.
right. It was like it wasn't scary because I had been sort of practicing mediumship and connecting to the other side, and I knew it was her relatives in
Okay.
spirit,
Yeah.
and also maybe some elementals. But it would be my own fear that was being triggered from these other attacks that made everything worse.
Ah,
And yeah, and so it just really wasn't until I realized like how much I had let this person in, and like how much energy I had given them in return, and how sort of out of control of my own mind I was. That was when the fear set in. But at
okay.
the same time, it didn't last very long because I knew I needed to do something about it immediately. And I did. And I did so much protection magic for 30 days straight, and like more so than I've ever done it once. And I made sure, my physical health got back in shape. I made sure I was like meditating. I made sure to just keep like really cleanse my spiritual hygiene. And I was able to get rid of that stuff and essentially like learn and grow as a magician. But yeah, and I think also the fear too, maybe, of feeling a spirit or entity so closely present with you can be a bit jarring at times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that was something to kind of get over, but I was never harmed by it or anything. Not by the one that was like my, what I thought was my holy guardian angel. That wasn't the bad spirit. Um but it was just, I don't know, it was just I didn't know kind of how to get rid of it or even what it was. And I still kind of look back at that point in time and I'm like, what was that? Like, what was going on?
Yeah.
Just a weird time. And but yeah, but I think just, realizing that and being discerning with, especially in the occult, with who you're trusting,
Yeah.
and who you're giving any energy to, whether that's in the form of money or work or whatever, or services. Like, you just have to be really mindful, because not everyone has your best interest in mind.
True.
And as someone who's very sensitive to energy, like, I pick up on a lot of things and can be susceptible to a lot of things if I'm not careful. So I think just the gravity of that realization was the scariest for me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's a thing that happens to a bunch of folks, in part because you cross the line and you say, okay, I'm doing occult stuff, and that initial excitement and energy, you'll do magic stuff and get results, and it's like, oh man, this is super great, what was I worried about? And you do things at the pace, and everyone's like, okay, be cool, go slow, like, and but you have these successes and you're like, why the hell go slow? This is killer. Like, let's just do this more. Like, let's do this but harder. And then you find out why you
Yeah.
really do in fact want to kind of slow your roll there, hot rod.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And everybody learns in their own way. So yeah, and especially, like, it's important to, if you do find a teacher on the path, like, find a teacher who has done a lot of their own shadow work and a lot of their own overcoming of fears. One thing I learned about my Kundalini yoga teacher later on was that she still very much had fears that were just ingrained in her from growing up, like Christian dogma. She had a fear of Satan, and she had a fear of, like, dark energies, and she had not yet done that work necessary in order to provide that safety for her students that's needed when you are on such an intensely spiritually focused practice like Kundalini yoga.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make this a musical analogy, and you're just gonna love the fact that I did that.
Okay.
So imagine someone's playing like a C major chord real loud, right?
Okay.
Like middle C, banging it, but they're like way down the keyboard. They're hitting some kind of note that's outside of the scale, right? But very softly,
Mm-hmm.
very softly. But those overtones are still making their way into that chord,
Mm-hmm.
and so that low discordant tone, it's very soft. It's like the fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it's going to make its way into the sweet C chord. Those you can't deny those vibrations making their way in, and it's going to feel a little off. How's that for a piano analogy?
No, that's good. That's good. It's true, and it's like this, and you want to, when in that example, you want to focus on, or you try to focus on that C major chord that's being played, but there's still that, like, that uncomfortable sound, that, like, dissonant sound that you're like, something's a little off here, but let me just, like, maybe play this a little louder and it'll go away.
Yeah,
And it doesn't necessarily go away. It maybe gets louder in time, or this will get softer, and then there's more space for the lower vibrations to grow. So it's
right.
a good.
Yeah, just to trying to wing a piano analogy out there.
Yeah.
So was there anything you were trying to get away from in the main, like, so you entered the occult, let's just put it that way, or you crossed the line, you entered the practice. Was there something that you, in so doing, you were trying to leave behind? Like, I'm trying to get away from this thing, and I'm therefore going to go towards an orange checkbook.
That's that's a good question. I think I wanted to get away from pretty much my life at the time.
Okay.
I don't know if I was looking to magic as an escape. I don't think I was necessarily, but it was something different. It was something that I hadn't tried. I wanted to get away from all the narratives that people were trying to enforce on me as to what I should do and where I should go.
Okay.
Even though I didn't have my own narrative yet of what I should do and where I should go, I was just like, yours doesn't feel right. And I've been listening to you for a long time, and I'm in this shithole position. And not because of anything that anybody else said or did. I made the choices and actions to kind of get myself there. There were some life circumstances, things that played a part too. But I really wanted to just have a better life. I wanted to grow. I wanted to find myself. And I think a part of me did want to it wasn't so much. I mean, I'd already kind of gotten away from Christianity. I'd already sort of just not really, I would go to maybe church with my family and not say the prayers and not do the things, and so I wasn't really vibing with that, but I wasn't really sure where to go.
Right.
I needed. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
I know that my experience was basically, I'm miserable and I have really tried everything, the normal things that you're supposed to try, and none of that worked.
Yeah.
So what am I supposed to do now? Well, there is this unexplored territory.
Yeah.
So I get that.
I can really, and that's exactly what it was for me too. It's I know what I don't want to go back to, and and I feel very intrigued by this new thing that's come into my radar, and so might as well go for it. I really just felt like I had nothing to lose, and I didn't expect it to become this journey that will potentially be lifelong, and but I wanted to. I think maybe there was a rebellious part of me too that was fuck you, mom and dad. I'm gonna do what I want to do, what you think is bad, and I'm gonna show you that it's okay. Even though I haven't really shown them anything, it's more so just my own
right.
change of perspectives. But I'm sure that played a part in it too. Just kind of this is something I'm not supposed to do. So
The rebel spirits, man.
yeah, it makes life interesting.
Yeah, spicy. I love it.
Yeah.
No, I get it. I dig it. And by the way, when I say orange checkbook, I'm making a reference to not wealth magic, magic cash book. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. So
yeah, just for the audience
sure.
who may think what is he talking about?
Yeah.
Because part of it is you have to make, you basically make a checkbook cover, and it's orange because orange, and then you have to put the seal or sigil, however you want to pronounce that, of Nitika, I believe.
Yes.
Onto it. So you're working with the devil, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Or a demon or a daimon, or however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the genius spirit, but she's not an angel. She's not, I think they're more closely in resonance connected to demons, but she's not a bad spirit to work with. So
that one of the most beloved figures in Hinduism is a demon.
Which one?
Prahlad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prahlad was like a demon kid, and his dad was really a demon jerk. And Prahlad just really wanted to worship God, and that really pissed his dad off. And so his dad tried to kill Prahlad in several ways, and eventually his dad was killed by the appearance of God. Came bursting out of a column and tore him to pieces on the spot. And that's a story about devotion, but this, Prahlad was an actual literal asura. He was a demon. So.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not all Prahlad. Bad, so it's just that makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. So let's do a quickie, just touching, like, naming, if you can, just like touch and name all the different little practices that you're willing to share with us, like from magical cash book to right now. Can you like touch them?
Yeah. Do you want me to go through like all the Gallery of Magic books I've worked with, like all the practices I've done? And
well, I mean, you can if you want to just name the books or the like...
Yeah. Okay, well, a lot of books. So as far as Gallery of Magic stuff, it's gone from Magical Cash Book in the beginning to Wealth Magic. It was really about making money.
Enneagram 3.
And then I got into 72 Angels of Magic, 72 or Demons of Magic, though I haven't really worked very closely with that book. It was just really that one evocation with the group that I mentioned.
Right.
And I got into Chaos Magic a little bit, and then I got into Magical Seduction, and I've dabbled in Adventures in Sex Magic, also not as much yet. Let's see, Angels of Alchemy, Mystical Words of Power, Angels of Wrath. I think that's GOM. I can't.
It's either GOM or it's one of those books that looks exactly like GOM.
Right. Yeah. One of the two. Magical Riches was one, two. There's been a lot. I said Angels of Alchemy, Words of Power, Greater Words of Power. Archangels of Magic, which is a powerful book. I know there's some that I'm missing.
You and your books.
What?
You and your books, man.
Yeah. Success Magic. And then more recently, Financial Transformation Magic. And then as far as outside of like GOM stuff, I don't have too many like magic-y practices outside of that. I've dabbled. I haven't worked with the Goetia, but I've read the Goetia.
Okay.
I've read like other just kind of light witchcraft tips. I'm Scottish, so I have like a Scottish witchcraft book that I've read and I haven't like worked with, but I am very interested in connecting with like elementals. I have dabbled in mediumship and sort of law of attraction type stuff. Kundalini yoga, of course, was like definitely a spiritual practice. And and then Magical Protection, of course.
Right.
Yeah, which is a fantastic book, and that like literally saved my life. And arguably, and let's see what else. I know there's some books that I'm missing. They're all right behind me. I'm sure there's some, but yeah. And then getting into just like tarot readings and oracle card readings and astrology. I mean, I'm not an astrologer, but I know more than the average person, but compared to like an astrologer, I don't know much.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So those are kind of, I mean, and now like I still do some of the GOM books. I think my main focus right now is just on my own. Oh, and Magical Destiny. I know they're going to keep coming to me as I talk.
Right. I know there's one, it might be Magical Destiny, that's like a really big, long ass practice.
I don't think it's Magical Destiny.
Okay. I know one is basically like the Abermalin operation, but Gallery of Magic Damon Brand version.
Yeah. I mean, do you know what the intention is behind it, what it's focused on?
I think it's like great work of self-transformation, basically. Like meet your HGA, higher genius, whatever.
Oh, maybe
kind of deal.
Like Magical Destiny can be a lot of work. I honestly haven't completed all the rituals in there. It could be like maybe Secret Angel Magic or something too. I haven't touched that one.
Okay.
But yeah, I think my main focus right now is on building my own intuition
All right.
and seeking and listening, being a better listener and better receiver of source and that connection with source, and sort of getting out of my own way in that sense and allowing the energy to move through me that is going to flow in the direction of where I want to go, where I'm meant to go. And I still do, I still do my magic-y practices as
Yeah.
well, and probably always will. There's a lot in the books that I haven't done. I haven't done everything like in all the books, excuse me. But yeah, I think that kind of covers it.
Yeah, and there was also like crystals, divination.
Oh yes, yeah.
Kundalini,
Some
obviously.
work, yeah. And I've worked with the 40 servants. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
Yeah, so the 40 servants are essentially egregores by Tommy Kelly. He's got like their cards, and they each have their own energy, that you can call on to work with and sort of channel and invoke that energy or make offerings to it or whatever. So if you haven't like looked into it, but the 40 servants by Tommy Kelly,
Okay.
yeah, you can get the cards, and he's got like a grimoire online, which might be accessible if you buy the cards. I can't remember. But yeah, pendulum work. I've done a lot of like spiritualism work, just like table tipping and stuff like
Oh
that.
wow, like
Yeah,
classic Victorian magic.
that was like, that was probably a time when I should have been scared, but I was just like so fascinated, like, holy shit, this table is actually moving without anyone moving it. Like the spirit is moving it. So that was pretty nuts. And then
Ouija board? Ouija board?
I don't know. I don't fuck with Ouija boards. I don't know, man. Something about Ouija boards, like, I'm not like
They're creepy.
it, but I'm just like, ugh, why do I need that? Like, if I want to talk to the
Yeah.
other side, I have other methods I can use to do that. I don't know. I just feel like people that use Ouija boards don't know what they're doing mostly.
Okay.
And, I never say never. Like, I guess I'm more open to using it now because I have more confident in my ability to like know what's coming in and out. But haven't messed with a Ouija board yet.
All right. That's
Yeah.
fair.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a common thing though. I just thought, why not?
It is. Yeah, they used to sell them at like Toys R Us or something, which is
Yeah, Milton Bradley, Portals to the Damned. It's great.
yeah, yeah. I have worked with servitors too.
Okay.
Very much so. Connected with like the archangels sort of on my own. Michael is like one that I connect with the most. Yeah. And then, I've worked with Amara Yasmin's like Clowneck book, which is a really great book. And more recently, actually, after doing that interview with JD, I've been interested in connecting with Lilith again, which I haven't really connected with her before, but I don't know. But it was an idea of mine, or maybe it was her idea, like kind of a few months ago. And I kind of put it on the back burner just because I don't know, had other stuff I was focusing on. And then after that interview with JD, I was like, I really feel like I need some Lilith in my life. So
Okay.
I haven't done much with that yet. I've just been mostly meditating on her sigil. And
Hey man, JD, you can contact him and he will like hook you up, I'm sure. Like,
yeah,
for reals.
eligible. Yeah.
That's something he would love to do, I'm sure. And he's a very giving fellow.
Yeah. Yeah. I really enjoyed connecting with him and hearing his story. And thank you for making that connection available.
Oh, you're welcome. I love connecting people that I like. I just adore doing that.
Yeah. 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 It was a really great interview. But yeah, and I guess, I think it really one sort of focus, which this is coming to mind now, that I've realized along the way is how important your physical health is
Ooh.
in order to maintain good spiritual health. Because the stronger my body is, without being dependent on medications or substances, and not to say that, like, if you need to be medicated for something, that's bad and wrong. I've been medicated in the past, and it is helpful at times when you need it.
Yeah.
But having, taking care of your temple, ultimately, like taking care of the body that we are and that we dwell in, because one of the things that I realized when all those like magical attacks were happening in 2022 was that I was not taking care of really, and that definitely made me more susceptible to energies attaching to me and stuff, and so the stronger your body is, the stronger your mind will be. And
Good
so,
reminder. Yes.
and yeah, what'd you say?
Good reminder.
Yes, yeah. And so that's kind of been just a focus of mine within the last year too, is balancing that physical and spiritual as well, because it has to be a balance, right? One
Right.
yeah. So
Right. Well, I mean, that was sort of the story of Bodhidharma, the founder of Kung Fu. He was an Indian Buddhist who created Kung Fu because he had a bunch of monks that he was teaching, and they were so busy meditating and reading and studying and basically doing nothing that they were turning into pudding. And so he was like, we're going to make more spiritual progress if you guys aren't just like melting into the floor. So let's do Kung Fu.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. um it's really all incorporated. It all connects.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I will say, like, in addition to all the magical protection that I was doing, and other protection magic I was doing at times a couple years ago, I was also working out like every day, or
Nice.
walks. It wasn't just the protection magic, it was also just the rebuilding of my own health and like physical body, and getting stronger, that really helped my mind too, and to sort of clear away whatever was trying to hurt me. So something to keep in mind too whenever you're on this path as well, like not to forget that we are a body, and that we need to take care of.
Right. And you are the guardian of your temple after all.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
No, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we surveyed all the areas. Something came to mind. It's off menu. This is off menu question. Here we go. I know that I love books, right? You love books.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of occurred to me that maybe that is some sort of like appeal to authority or safety and permission seeking, which is to say, I feel better if I think someone authoritative has given me information because it feels safer. And I feel like I have permission. That's not really a question, I guess, but what do you think about that? Like the idea of this great hunger for information, and maybe part of it is sort of a kind of permission seeking.
I think that's true. I mean, I think that there is a level of safety that is felt when you meet the teacher, when you meet someone who gives you and helps you with this information. Again, it just comes back to also being discerning of who that teacher is and
True.
what you're receiving.
Right. And I will hasten to add, I don't want crummy books, and there are many.
Yeah.
there are many absolutely horrible things that people just kind of barf out because it sounds good to them, and they might become successful because they sound good to other people, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's actually valuable. So
right. Yeah. And I think there is something huge, like I touched on earlier, like my magic journey really began because I was inspired from a friend of mine who was also doing it. And I don't know if I would have had the same motivation or the lack of reservation about it if I had just come across it myself. I think because I knew and trusted this person that I saw doing this and that had more information and experience than I did at the time, like I was like, all right, let's do it, no questions asked. But if that hadn't come about, if there hadn't have been that middle party, it might have been a different experience. And I think it is important, because this can be like a super isolating path sometimes, but I do think that it is important to have, like a support group, a handful of people that are also, into the occult or doing some of the same stuff or slightly different stuff that you do trust and that you can learn from and get that information from. And, there's that saying, like, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I find that to be true, especially, I mean, yes, in all areas of life pretty much, but especially in this path too. And yeah. And so, but again, just like the discernment of like making sure it's a good teacher.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I can only agree with that.
Cool. Hope that answers your question.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I just have a habit, like it's a new habit I've developed, where if I see something shadowy in me, like something questionable or elusive, something trying to hide a blind spot, I will grab it. I'm like, hey, you, what are you? What are we doing here? Because otherwise they fester and they grow.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, whoa, am I a permission seeker? Let's explore that. And let's do it on the show. Let's do it now.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I think it does help when you feel that you have that sort of permission slip, like all those teachers that I referenced and those trusted friends. It was almost like, okay, here's your permission slip. Like they're doing it. You can do it too,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I started with Kabbalah because it was the magic of Jesus, right? What better permission slip is there?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's a great teacher too. I have I still pray to Jesus sometimes not.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Yeah, but he's Jesus, nothing wrong, nothing
No,
against Jesus.
Jesus is just all right with me.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
song says. Is there anything in your occult path? So you've experienced lots of different stuff. Is there anything that you once valued and now you look back and you go, you know what? Even though I'm kind of glad it was part of my path, I don't think I'll ever do that again. I don't think I value that really anymore. And we've talked about the orishas and that experience. So that might be the thing, but is there anything else?
Yeah, well, definitely the African stuff. I have no interest in dabbling in any of that. Like, mostly because of that experience, and also just because like it doesn't resonate with me beyond, even regardless of that experience. It's also a good question. I don't know. I mean, Kundalini yoga is coming to my mind again.
Okay.
But at the same time, like it's just not something I would make the time for right now. But if it did appear on my path at some point in time again, and I have a different teacher, then I wouldn't say no, if it felt right. I did get away from like the mediumship for a little while, but that's also something that I'm trying to be intentional about coming back to. But no, I guess charging crystals. Like I don't charge my crystals.
Okay. That's a great example.
Yeah.
That,
I don't know. I don't do the little like light witchcraftery things that like, new age do. Like I'm just I don't need to put maybe I will like if I use them more, but yeah, just little things like that, or making like spell jars I don't do as much. Like I know I wear this like big rock ring, but I really don't like wear crystals on me much anymore either. Not to say that I don't like believe in that. I mean,
Right.
I have like bracelets on right now, but yeah, just kind of those little things, I guess. Or I don't really work with servitors. There's nothing that I've totally denounced, I guess. There's just things that.
Well, it doesn't even have to be denouncement, although that would be interesting, but just stuff that you're just like, you know what?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess like that, or also just being so, I don't know, like I'm a lot more discerning now, like with who I learn from and connect with. And I guess in the beginning, I was more so open to, oh, well, here you are and you're into magic. Let's talk.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
excuse me. And now it's like, yeah. So just more discernment on that sense. More cautious with my own energy. But yeah, I guess that is kind of where I'm at
Okay.
with it. That answers the question.
Yeah, totally.
Mhm.
I just think it's interesting to you can look at your present and then you look at your past and then you can look at the future. And by the way, I feel like I needed to come up with really good questions for you because you are such a superlative interviewer
Oh, well, thank you.
that
Yeah.
that I needed to, really step up my game.
Well, you're
So
doing a cool job. So these are really great questions too.
thank
So,
you. You can steal them.
okay.
Steal them. So
Yeah.
what's brandy new? Like, what are you looking forward to? It's like virgin territory. You haven't touched it yet, and you're looking at it and you're just like, yummy, yummy. That looks awesome. I want to do this now.
As
What
far
is
as magic stuff or just in life in general?
any and all answers are appropriate. I'm thinking about magic, but you know what? It can be other stuff. Saxophone.
um, well, so transurfing is something that I would like to be would like to learn more about.
Okay.
I've looked into it a little bit, but haven't fully committed yet. Um,
And it is a commitment. I'll just go ahead and tell you.
yeah, that's what I gather. So that, and then let's see, as far as like new things, I think, I mean, and then unrelated to magic. Well, I don't know. I mean, like learning Spanish. I want to be fluent in Spanish, but that's not. I'm already on kind of that path, I guess.
Right.
I started a lot of new things when I moved. Like I started doing jujitsu, and then I intentionally started taking Spanish lessons, and I started to go on hikes and like explore by myself more, which weren't things that I necessarily did in the past. So, but then as far as like spiritual practices, Reiki is another one that I would like to maybe get some experience with at some point, but just haven't. Again, a little bit, I've dabbled a little, but not really committed or trained or anything with that. I try to focus on like, well, what resonates the most for me right now. Um, so yeah, is that
Yeah, that totally satisfies it. Yeah, I just, everyone's, well, not everyone, but most everyone's got some sort of new shiny on the horizon. They're like, ooh, I think that's cool. Oh,
yeah,
that looks groovy, which is part of the spice of life, new
that
horizons, new adventures.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think like also kind of building momentum for like the book that I'm writing, like joining a writers group has been something new, and just seeing the progression of that, which is cool, and not having it feel like as much of a pipe dream anymore.
Yeah.
And that is actually going to be like a published book one day. That's sort of just taken a new perspective, old idea, but new sort of evolvement of that. Um, and I think I would like I said, like to build a closer relationship with Lilith. So that's kind of like the closest thing on my radar
All
right
right.
as far as what to get into next spiritually is forming a one-on-one relationship with certain spirits.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to wrap it up
Okay.
because it's been a super great interview, and I don't know how much coffee you've had, but you might need to take a comfort break.
Yeah.
Where can you be found? Where can we find you? And I do want you to send me these links, but I just want you to also tell people.
Cool. Yes. Well, I can be found on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Pixie Dust and Spirit Alchemy. I have a buy me a coffee little page thing where I offer some magic services. If you're interested, right now it's just like 72 Angels of Magic rituals, which plan on expanding and offering more things on there. But I'm also available for tarot and oracle card readings, mediumship readings, like psychic medium readings, as well as just like magic consultation calls. Like I've had some people that are starting on this path and just, if you want to just talk about magic, you have questions about magic, we can talk about it. I can help you with something. So it can be found on there. That's buymeacoffee.com/pixie dust. And I have an Instagram, working on building it. So pixiedust.spiritalchemy is my Instagram, which I'll send you the link for that as well.
I think I've got that. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, just working on kind of growing that as well. I'm not on TikTok right now. I probably feel like maybe I should. I don't know. Like everybody's on TikTok, but I just
Right.
on TikTok, but we'll see. We'll see if the path leads me there. But right now, those are the three main places that
Okay.
I found. So
So no networks or Substack or Medium or anything like that.
not yet, not yet. But
Okay.
I do believe this year I'm going to work on expanding that a little bit more. I'm also in opening up a Shopify store where I'll be like having little merchandise products that you can buy too, and like an Etsy page. So those are works in progress, but I do want to, yeah, I'll keep you posted about any Substacks or Medium, just maybe as an outlet for writing or for something more. So yeah,
Okay.
really to expand this year a bit more with my
Nice.
service, my work and stuff.
How very Jupiterian.
Yeah,
Yes.
three.
And so you listed my next question was going to be what services do you offer, but you mentioned the ones. Are those all available on your Buy Me a Coffee?
Yes, yeah, they
Okay.
are. Mhm.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
people need to check it out. Like I'm telling you, Pixie, and I'll probably end up saying this until forever. Is that if you want someone who is really sensible, I don't mean that in some sort of dull way. I mean someone who you can pretty much guarantee is not crazy. Okay, someone who's really grounded and who does magic and isn't gonna freak out or freak you out or nothing like that. I'm telling you, Pixie is your person.
Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That means a lot. And I really do appreciate those words and everything. And I strive to, yeah, not come off as some like, I don't think charlatan's the right word, but just some, it's not a performance. Like it's a service. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I
So
think I think sincerity, like you are the most just sincere and upfront and no facade person.
thank you.
So literally every ounce and iota of what shows up on YouTube has been completely 100% real. And you can't say that about everybody.
Yeah. Authenticity is very important to me. So, what you see is what you get. And I am grateful that that is being recognized by people. Because that's what's in my services and just who I am. And I think is important to be shared. And that's how I want to connect with people, is just authentically. So, yeah.
I think you've managed to do that from day one. So
Well, thank you. Yeah.
effortless. All right, I'm wrapping it up. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me and join my microscopically tiny channel.
No, yeah, but it's growing though. It's okay. I'm
Yeah.
happy to like be on your channel and happy to do this again. And thank you so much for such good questions and for the conversation and everything. You've done a great job.
Thank you very much. And coming from an interviewer such as yourself, and honestly, people, you need to get on her YouTubes and well, you check it all out. But the interviews, in fact, it's funny that I remember seeing so many. There's a period of time, and maybe it's still true.
Mhm.
So many like from New Age to Jesus videos.
Mm,
Right?
mm,
You could, if you do a search on YouTube for New Age to Jesus, you're just going to get flooded. And I
yeah.
thought someone needs to do the opposite.
Mm.
Someone needs to be doing like Jesus to New Age or Jesus to occult. And lo and behold,
Yeah, no, it's honestly like I'm really glad that that's kind of maintaining momentum. And Fryer has a wonderful interview on there too, which is one of my favorites that I've done so far. But it's
thank you.
really cool, like that people are interested in telling their stories, and because that's my experience is like Jesus to a cult and religion to a cult, and so like there's other people out there with that similar theme and their own story to tell.
Yeah,
And I think that like the whole intention behind it, as I say in the videos, is to like just be a tool, a resource, a means of inspiration for people on their own path that did grow up religious and are seeking and don't know where to seek or what to seek or how to seek, and hearing other people's stories, helps along the way. So it's
that's
been,
great.
and it's continuing to happen. I have another one with this guy Scott next month, and gonna just keep it going as long as it's going. So I'm glad that you thought that that needed to be a thing. I'm
Oh
glad
yeah.
it happened. Yeah.
I almost made it a thing. And I was
Yeah.
like, maybe not right now. But
You can, yeah. But
I did enjoy my interview, my contribution to that series. I think
mhm.
mine is titled like Fundamental Baptist to Occult, I think it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Mhm.
So that was a lot of fun, and being interviewed by you was really wonderful and a great example of how interviews can
Mhm.
go. So
Cool.
thank you. Thank you for that. All right, wrapping it up. Like I said,
Yeah. Yeah.
promise. Thank you very much. Give Bella some more spoiling
I
and
will.
enjoy the weather. And I will have you on again. I
Awesome.
guarantee it. All
Yes.
right.
Thank you for this opportunity. So it's been great talking to you.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay. You too. Talk to
Bye.
you. Okay. Bye.